Hey guys, have you ever injured your ankles in your movement practice? Whether it's parkour or natural movement, acute ankle injuries are one of the most common things that we face. Today we're going to be taking you through the drills that have really helped me overcome a history of massive chronic ankle problems. I've had over 8 severe ankle sprains on each ankle. I've torn my Achilles tendon and I've had a high ankle sprain. But over the last 7 years, I haven't had any ankle injuries. And so this is what I've been doing to keep my ankles healthy, and I'm sure it will help you as well. As with any joint, with the ankle, we need to make sure that we have sufficient range of motion and that we have motor control and strength throughout that range of motion. For functional, a lot of times what people are missing is this dorsiflexion aspect. We need to be able to be open and mobile, but we also need to be able to be stiff and explosive. And the same is true through all these ranges of motion. The most common injury we're going to face is this inversion sprain. And then second, for parkour athletes and more natural movement athletes, a lot of times is going to be that hyperflexion injury where we get impinged in the front of the ankle. It's called an ankle thing in the parkour community. That happens a lot when you're jumping and landing on specific surfaces. So then we have the inversion injury. We have torque that can separate the membrane between the tibia and the fibula, which is called the interosseous membrane. And we have a hyperextension injury, which occurs a lot in team sports or combat sports when someone rolls onto your ankle or hyperextends your ankle. So we want to make sure that we're attending to and making stronger, more mobile, and more capable of elasticity and stiffness the posterior of the ankle, strengthening the anterior of the ankle, the lateral side of the ankle, and the medial side of the ankle, and then the torsion around the ankle. And so we're going to take you through all the drills that we do to achieve those purposes. Our first drill is just going to be an open chain ankle circle. This is just about building the range of motion and motor control through the entire ankle. As we're doing this, what we want to do is notice anywhere where the ankle is jumping in its motion, a tendency to ratchet. And you'll see a lot of it in my ankles because of my history with ankle sprains. What we're trying to do is get that to be as smooth as possible. Not chunk, 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 but smooth. We're going to do that in both directions. You can do this standing. I'm demonstrating sitting just for camera reasons. But this is an open chain ankle circle. You can do this with your toes pointed down the whole time. Do it with toes pointed up the whole time. Lots of variations. So for our second drill, now we're going to take that open chain movement and make it a closed chain movement. And the closed chain is where almost all of our injuries are going to happen. So it's important that we work this range of motion in a closed chain. So I'm going to stand with my weight on one leg, and then I'm going to take this other leg and now put my weight on as much as it can handle and take it through this entire range of motion. So that's going to be our closed chain ankle circle. And you can put more weight on that or less weight on that depending on how ready you are for the drill and how prepared your ankle is. A lot of times dysfunction in the ankle though actually starts with lack of dorsiflexion. So we're going to work on that ability to flex the shin forward over the ankle. When we don't have good dorsiflexion ability, our body will route around the ankle in different ways, which puts us in a dangerous position to potentially injure ourselves. So not only does dorsiflexion make us better athletes in performance, it also makes us more likely to avoid injury. So one of the really basic ways to work on dorsiflexion is to set yourself up in front of a surface and see how far you can get your toe away from the surface and effectively touch your knee. So now you can do this, and you can do this by just resting here and doing a passive stretch. I don't do that very often. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do an active moving into the space repeatedly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press down with my foot as hard as I can, as if I'm trying to drive my knee through this as hard as I possibly can. And I'll hold for about 20 seconds there. Now, so that's firing and strengthening all these muscles in their most lengthened position. Now I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to strengthen the anterior compartment in that most shortened position. So what I'm going to do is try to pick my foot up off the ground, and holding my foot up off the ground, I'm going to rock back. So all of these muscles are firing as hard as possible. So this is my basic routine that I try to do every day for dorsiflexion. Touch my knee 10 times, 20 seconds driving my knee into the wall, and then 10 lift-offs of my toe. And that'll help a lot of you guys. But if you really have tight ankles with a bunch of history of ankle sprains like I do, you actually need to go even further, and you can bring in something like a kettlebell to help press your knee into the wall. So I'm going to come in here and do a little squat. I'm going to put this kettlebell on my knee, and I'm going to do the same exact exercise, but now I can overpress using the weight of the kettlebell. So now this is pretty easy. So I'm going to move my toe back a little bit. If I want even more weight, I can kind of take some of my weight off my back leg, really sit in here and mobilize, move my knee around, and then I'm going to press down, same way, trying to push my heel up off the ground as hard as I can, trying to drive like I'm trying to, push the pedal down, drive my knee through this wall, and now I can go back and work on lifting that foot up. So this is how I work on my ankle dorsiflexion, which is a huge key to performance. The better your ankle can dorsiflex, the better you can accelerate, the better you can cut and change directions, the better you can create power. It's a really key composition, and it also makes your ankles more resistant to injury. So in general, with a joint or with a muscle complex, there's always a relationship between the mobility or ability to move into space of a joint and its stiffness or its ability to resist movement. So often an ankle that is stiffer is less mobile, and an ankle that is more mobile isn't as stiff. But you need to actually have both. If you are lacking ankle mobility, you can't optimize your positions. And you're going to tend to move your feet in ways that are going to make you more prone to injury at the ankle or at the knee, or even at the hip. So you need this dorsiflexion, but at the same time you need the stiffness to prevent your ankle from moving a lot. So during a sprint, as you're accelerating, the ability to dorsiflex is really important. But as you reach peak speed, the ability to have a completely stiff foot that moves very little when it hits the ground, that's what's going to transfer force the best to the ground. So I like, after working on the mobilization of the ankle, to work on a little bit of stiffness drilling, which is just bouncing in place and trying to bounce as high as possible by bouncing off of the stiff foot. So that looks like this. You can stay on my feet. So I've got like a 30-inch vertical leap, but that comes mostly from my hips, which are really powerful. Historically, my feet and ankles have been kind of weak. So you can see when I'm just working on my feet, I'm not getting a ton of height. But as we work on this and drill this, that foot will develop. And having a stronger foot as an athlete is one of the most powerful things you can possibly have. So next we're going to be looking at the classic inversion ankle sprain. So this happens in life. This is going to happen to you. If you're not training your ankle to be able to support you in this position, you're just setting yourself up for injury. So first we can just do it, right? And I like to wear shoes. You notice I put my shoes back on for this. It just takes it's a little bit less painful on the outside bones of my feet. Also, if you wear a thicker shoe, it creates more tension on your foot, and you can get a little bit of a training effect by increasing the lever arm that's acting on your foot. So I'm on the outside edge of my foot, and I can just stretch a little bit here, and then I can work on strengthening that as well. So I can try to push my foot down, just like I tried to push in the other position. I'll just use my weight to stabilize, and I'm just firing all the muscles over here. So I can just do that isometrically, or I can go and bring my foot back in, back in. And eventually, I want to be able to push into my foot dynamically, because that's the way the injury happens. And we can even turn our feet out and jump and land on the outside of our ankles. This is, of course, a more advanced version of the drill. If you're uncomfortable as soon as you put your foot out here, don't even think about jumping yet. But I want you to get the idea that eventually that's how stable and strong your ankles need to be. You need to be able to go onto the outside, jump on them, and not get injured. Next, we're going to be looking at the inversion sprain. So the inversion sprain is difficult to train because if we just drop our foot in, we're dropping our knee in. And a lot of times we're going to get more stress on the knee than we are going to get on the foot. So it took me a long time to figure it out, but what I figured out was the best way to train that interior ankle sprain is to use an elevated platform, stick your foot on the edge of it, and then lean away. So now I can stretch that inversion action on my foot. Now I can start isometrically pressing against the weight here, and I can start rolling through and pushing my foot out of that position. And obviously I can do this with my foot off the ground too. This is a little bit too far for me, so I'll move it in to show you that. So here's my foot on the edge. Pick my foot up. So currently I'm working on corkscrews, and frequently I land in kind of way over here, and I'm pushing into that ankle, into this compartment of the ankle. And this has been amazing for strengthening myself to prevent that from becoming an impingement. So this is the way that I'm working, opening up all of these tissues and making them stronger. And just like we can start then becoming more dynamic with it, opening that ankle up, opening that ankle up. With any of these ranges of motion, we want to start with first establishing the pain-free range of motion, right? How far can we go? Can we open that up? Can we get better relaxation into it? Then we want to start developing strength and motor control. Can I get in there and produce tension effectively? Then can I start moving around it eccentrically and concentrically? And only once we've established all of that are we going to move into dynamic actions. So the kicking of the outside of the ankle, the kicking of the inside of the ankle, the jumping, all of that has to be done on top of an ankle that already has established motor control, strength, and range of motion. I wanted to show it to you just so you realize that we have to go all the way to this level of pressure testing our ankle if we want an ankle that's truly bulletproof when we take it out there to train. The next thing we want to look at is really preparing for that interior ankle dynamic movement. It gets a lot of anterior ankle injuries. So we want to be on top here and learning to overpress dynamically, okay? Again, we want to establish strength, range of motion somewhere else, but now I'm going to stay on the edge here and I'm going to bounce and expose my ankle to the type of tensions it's going to experience in my jumps. So. I like to do this until I actually feel just the tiniest little bit of discomfort beginning in the front of that ankle. So I know I've exposed it to what will injure it, but I stop before it's going to hurt me going forward, right? I'm not going to feel worse later today. I just know that I've exposed it to enough that's going to adapt and get stronger. So the last thing we're going to look at is strengthening and preparing your ankle for going into extension. So the first thing is actually what I'm doing. It's just kneeling. A lot of people are not comfortable kneeling. Their ankles can't tolerate this position. This is a basic human mobility position. Everyone should be able to do this. So if this is uncomfortable for you, start with a blanket under your feet, a rolled up towel, and slowly get yourself comfortable just in this position. Once you're comfortable in this position, you can move into adding some tension or increasing the weight. So now the weight is distributed across my shin, but I can press my shins up and start stressing my ankles more. From there, I can then start moving more dynamically, or I can start using a isometric. So I'm going to try and press my toes forward, try to press my feet forward like I'm ripping the ground up with my feet. And that's going to strengthen this whole interior compartment and its relationship to that extension. Once we're there, we can start working on a little bit of explosives. Can I come down and land and stretch those ankles out? Okay. Can I jump out of this position? So here we've got, again, the same progression from opening the joint up, increasing its motor control, increasing its ability to have strength, and eventually we work on elasticity and dynamics. So this is our system for how we're preparing the ankle to be as bulletproof as possible. There's lots more details, of course, but this should give you a nice guideline to start your journey in building the most powerful ankles you can.